If the child is a boy and old enough to say Kaddish, then obviously one has to get into that as well. Obviously explain what to expect with the minyan. People will be looking at him, but he should just focus on Kaddish. The child's going to want to know how saying Kaddish helps. Especially when you look at the translation of Kaddish, obviously depending on how old he is, and you notice how there is nothing there about the neshama. It's all about Hashem. So how does saying Kaddish help, and why is it important that I say? Why can't anyone else do it? So let's spend a few minutes on this. We know that Kaddish helps the neshama's experience as it goes through Gehenim. What is Gehenim and how does Kaddish help? So first explain that every neshama has a place in Gan Eden. Every neshama has a portion. We will all get there. There's different levels of Gan Eden depending on how many mitzvahs we do, etc. But we all end up in Gan Eden. But there's a rule. Only clean neshamas could go into Gan Eden. When we do something wrong, that's a bit of dirt. So we need to go through a spiritual shower, a cleansing process. And that's what Gehenim is. Gehenim is not a punishment, it's a cleansing process to clean the neshama so that the neshama can then go into Gan Eden absolutely pure and clean. Now how does Kaddish help that? The child obviously will have difficulty relating to how Gehenim is really how the neshama is exposed to its wasted potential, what it could have done and should have done, and that shame is really what cleanses the neshama. So I've often used the following parable, the following mashal. I explained how there was a king who loved hunting. He would get on his horse and he would chase this buck, and he would just focus on that and forget about everything else around him. He just loved hunting. Of course, he was on the biggest horse, the strongest horse, the fastest horse. And so whenever he would go, he would actually outrun all his soldiers and guards. His horse was faster. And so it was one day that there's this magnificent buck, massive, and the king really wants to catch this. And this buck is so fast and is going here and there and there. And of course, the king is hot on his trail. And unfortunately for the king, this buck happens to go into some farmer's prized tomato patch. And of course, the king follows it. Even more unfortunately for the king, the farmer happened to be in his tomato patch, and even more unfortunate for the king, the farmer had no clue who this trespasser was. He had no idea who the king was. All he sees is some Meshuggah has now trampled the tomatoes that he's been working the whole summer growing. And so he's so angry, he's so upset at this person. He slams the gate. The buck is long gone, but now the king is trapped in the garden, and he starts throwing these now ruined tomatoes at the king. Anyway, the guards finally find the king. They catch up to him, pardon the pun, and the king is covered. They want to arrest the farmer. Look what he's done to the king. The king says, you can't arrest him. He didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't know who I am. I'm glad he didn't do anything worse. To which the guards, the people accompanying the king say, but we can't let this go unpunished. There has to be some consequence. Look what he's done to the king. So the king thinks for a while and he says, I have a good idea. Let's bring the farmer to the capital. And when the farmer begins to see the respect that people have for government ministers and the way the respect government ministers have for the royal family, for the junior royals, and the way the junior royals respect the senior royals. Just hope your child is not familiar with the English royal family. Please explain to them that we're talking about a normal one. And when the farmer begins to understand just how special a king is, how much we respect and hold in awe this person, the shame that he'll feel for what he did would be worse than any punishment we could give him. And it's the same thing with the neshama. Now, we're down here in this world, we're like that farmer. We don't recognize the king. We know there is a king, but we don't necessarily recognize him when we come face to face. And every action we do, we are actually connecting with Hashem. And when we do the wrong thing, well, then that's like throwing tomatoes or worse at the king. We're embarrassing Hashem. And so you can choose any example you want. Let's just choose fighting with a sibling. Now, I'm so angry at my sibling, I'm not thinking of how Hashem's looking at it. I'm just thinking that I'm really, really angry and I want to punch my brother in the nose. And so without thinking, that's exactly what I do. I punch him in the nose. Not realizing what Hashem is thinking. Hashem is thinking, oi, your brother has a neshama, it's a piece of me. And you just punched me in the nose and I'm so hurt by that. But we don't realize that until the farmer comes into the capital. Until we get up to Shemayim and all of a sudden, we realize, oy, 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 what have I done? And we feel so bad. I punched my brother in the nose. I punched Hashem. Oy, 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 look how insulting it is. And so, explain to the child, picture hiding behind the couch, and don't look at me, don't look at me. Oy, 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 I punched my brother, don't look at me, I'm so embarrassed. Suddenly, what does the neshama hear? The neshama hears how its child is saying, Yiskadal, be great, Yiskadash, and be sanctified, be holy, Shmei Rabbah, his great name, making Hashem's name wonderful, great, beautiful. Through my bad action, through the thing that I did wrong, I sort of dirtied Hashem's name. I made Hashem's presence or name felt less in this world. So now, I'm publicly, and that's why it has to be done only with a minyan, with 10 people, I'm publicly sanctifying Hashem's name. I'm making Hashem's name greater. And so picture the neshama is hiding behind the couch and don't look at me, I punch my brother in the nose. And suddenly, hey, what's this I hear? Oh, maybe I'm not so bad. Because look what my child is doing and making up for what I did. I did something bad, but now Hashem's name is being even greater. Wow. And the neshama is able to lift its eyes and look around and everybody sees that everybody's got their stuff they're dealing with, and it makes the neshama more okay. In other words, the neshama knows that whatever wrong I may have done, and of course daddy and mommy were a great person, but everybody does a little bad here and there, and the little bad, now the neshama sees that it's being set right. Whatever I might have messed up, accidentally or whatever the case is, whatever I may have messed up, now somebody is making up for it. And this is very reassuring. Now anybody could say Kaddish, but imagine when the person's child says. In other words, this child is acting because of everything the parent has taught the child. Everything the parent has implanted within the child is now causing this child to want to make Hashem's name great. And that counts for so much more. That makes the neshama feel so good. That makes all the malachim smile. And it makes Hashem happy. Especially when the person's child does it. If a girl is hearing this explanation and now feels bad that she can't say Kaddish, you can explain that any time we make Hashem's presence felt more tangible, you explain it in age-appropriate language, depending on the child's age, then that would be an equivalent of saying Kaddish. Every mitzvah we do makes Hashem's name. Every time we give tzedakah, every time we have Avas Yisrael, etc., it's putting a smile upstairs, and again, that's the equivalent of saying Kaddish.